Hi, welcome to our presentation on easy sensory tools and routines you can do at home with your children during the COVID-19 quarantine. I'm Sharon Juenemann from the Shadow Project, and we're a local Portland, Oregon nonprofit that partners with K-8 schools to make learning more accessible and engaging for children with learning challenges. I'm also the parent of children with sensory needs, and like many of you, I'm trying to figure out ways to support my kids' needs with schools closed and my kids at home.
Hey everyone, I'm Jessica Wade. I'm an occupational therapist with the Multnomah County Early Childhood Program. I'm also the owner of the Wiggle Room, which is an indoor inclusive play space for kids in Northeast Portland. And like Sharon, I'm also a mom I have two young children, and I'm also trying to figure out ways to support them while we're all home together.
Jessica and I have designed this video to give you quick, easy to use information to help you help your children get their sensory needs met at home using basic things you likely already have around your house or apartment. So we will go ahead and get started. So all of us use sensory input as a way to manage our bodies and manage our emotions, either to get ourselves more woken up and alert or to calm ourselves down. If we think about it, giving some thought to how we use sensory routines and activities throughout our day can really help us develop empathy for our children, especially when they're having behavioral problems and acting out because they're feeling overly alert or too tired and need some stimulation. So look at this list and think about what you do to meet your sensory needs throughout the day. Do you wake yourself up in the morning with coffee or tea? Do you snack on sweet or salty food in the afternoon? Or do you watch a favorite show or read a book to relax before bed? All of those are examples of things that you're already doing to create a sensory routine for yourself to keep yourself regulated throughout the day. When we think about our kids and what their sensory needs are, this video helps us to understand what kids are experiencing throughout the day when the environment is kind of getting in their way and not really helping them be at their best selves. So let's take a listen.
Imagine you have a sensory cup and your brain drip feeds it with information from your senses. If our brain's filter lets through too much information, it is as if your sensory cup is being filled up very quickly. This can cause sensory overload. Imagine having a conversation with a friend at home. For somebody with sensory overload, they wouldn't be able to help being aware of the program on TV, the clock ticking, the temperature, the movements their friend is making, the smell of food, the cat, the dripping tap, the washing machine, and so on. This can make concentrating on the conversation a very difficult and stressful task. For those who have difficulty expressing how they feel in these situations, this may result in negative behaviour. Even simple everyday situations can prove difficult to those with sensory overload. On the other hand, if the brain lets through too little information, it is as if the sensory cup is being fed with very small amounts of information. It can take a long time for the cup to be full, and this can cause a child to be sensory seeking. For those children who are sensory seeking, the same situation of having a conversation at home may feel understimulating. This can result in behaviours that are intended to fill these sensory gaps, such as fidgeting, chewing, fiddling, or moving around the room. Remember, what we see of a person's behaviour is only the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot more going on behind the scenes than they may be able to tell you. See behaviour, think sensory.
So see behavior, think sensory. So when we think about the behavior of our kids throughout the day, and we're thinking about creating a sensory routine, what we want to do as much as we can is help our kids stay in this middle band that you see, that calm, alert, organized, able to maintain a conversation and back and forth and listen to instructions. And so Jessica is going to show us some activities that you can plan throughout the day to help your kids stay in that zone as much as possible. Because a lot of kids, because of the environment around them, like we saw in the video, they can easily get into that over-aroused state, being anxious and disorganized and having meltdowns, maybe even using escape behavior and running around. We also know that sometimes our kids get overwhelmed by the environment around them, and they withdraw, and they go into a corner and they don't want to interact. Maybe some of us are struggling with our kids not wanting to do that distance learning that they're being asked to do. So these activities and having a routine where you do a couple of things throughout the day can help our kids engage with what they need to do. It's important, though, to do what's manageable for you and your family. Some days you may be able to pull off doing a couple of these activities, and some days just one is all you can do, and that's okay. Just start with what you can do.
As we can see here, there's some pictures of some heavy work happening, and generally speaking, heavy work can help many kids and adults. I like to think of heavy work as the big bang for your buck. It's those activities where you're pushing and pulling and carrying, all the activities that provide input into the big muscles. And what do I mean when I say input? I really mean that your muscles can feel it. Your muscles are activated, and this is the type of work that sends signals to our brains through our nervous system that keeps us in that optimal learning state that we saw in that chart. And that's really the stage where we really see our kids being their best selves, and it's us as adults where we're really our best selves as well. And what we'll see in some of these videos is some ideas for some heavy work activities that, to do within routines in your house. This first video here is pushing a weighted laundry basket, and we can watch the video and see how it goes.
Ready?
Here he is pushing this laundry basket that's filled with just a few things we gathered around the house. Some books, some cans, a thing of juice, and pushing things that are heavy give kids a little bit of extra input into those muscles.
And as you can see in that video, it was filled with just things we had around the house. You can use books, bags of rice, cans, anything really. And if you don't have a laundry basket, a cardboard box can work, a wagon, maybe a little kid's shopping cart if your kid's a little bit smaller. And I was actually thinking just when watching this, this would be, let's say your kid is maybe at the computer doing some work, and then they're going to go into the other room to maybe sit down and do some writing or some reading. And maybe this is something that they push on their way to that room that's just kind of built in with that routine to add a little bit of heavy work. And in this next video, we'll see this is a little activity involving a sensory bin that's got some materials in it that provide some heavy work. So we can watch the video and see how this one goes.
Can you find me the tea? Lots of different things with this, and you can use other stuff in here. You can always put water in there if you have
Sorry, that was supposed to stop a little bit earlier, but that's okay. As you can see in that video, that bin is filled with I think it's filled with some rice and beans that provides some input. You could also use some dried pasta, sand, dirt, pebbles, trying to think of things that you already have. And this is a kind of smaller shoebox size plastic container, but could also use a cardboard box, an old shoebox. If you have a kid that really likes to feel a full body experience, you could use a big Rubbermaid bin and fill that up with some cool sensory materials. And they could explore that. If maybe your kid's a little bit older, this could be a way that maybe there's a way to incorporate a math lesson into there. Maybe they have to count things as they're taking them out or add them together. Using here, I used some letters, but you could even expand it to maybe the letters come out and then working on spelling, or then writing the letters that come out. Could be a way to kind of incorporate it into what they're already doing. And in this next slide, this is a video using a weighted bottle, which is another way to add some heavy work throughout their day. And we can watch the video and see how this one goes.
With this, you can say, oh, can you bring me that bottle? Bring it over here. And carrying.
And so carrying a weighted bottle is another way to add some of that heavy work. And you could put the bottle into a wagon or into a cart or into a box and have them push it around. And if you have an older kid, putting away groceries is a great way to incorporate this type of work into their routine. And I just rinse out an old recycled bottle of milk jugs, work really well. This is some dishwasher gel. And I just rinse it all out and then put the material in there. And I usually do duct tape the lid on, or super glue, hot glue, to keep it on there real good. And we know that now we have kids of all ages that are at home and trying to do a bunch of different things in regards to their distance learning. And kids of all ages really do need sensory breaks. And I would say maybe even more so now with distance learning. They're really sitting a lot more than they're used to. Even at school, you know, maybe they were walking to sharpen that pencil, walk to go to the bathroom, walk to the cafeteria, and then they had their recess time. And so there was some more movement built into their day. And so they aren't getting a lot of that. And if you had a kid that was really into sports, they're really missing out on a lot of those activities as well. So as we monitor our kids and we kind of monitor them to figure out, you know, when are they in that optimal state and what activities kind of help them stay in that state of alertness. And it may change throughout the day, but here are some activities that I would say even could work for some older kids. So drinking ice water through a straw, and we can watch this video here. And this is pretty simple. It's just a straw and a cup. And if you have a kid that's really into water bottles, a water bottle with the straw lid, because when we're sucking, it's really using our jaw and our muscles in our face, which is providing heavy work. And believe it or not, it actually does create kind of an overall calming effect really on our whole bodies. And in this video, what we'll see is he's chewing on a Twizzler, which again provides that heavy work into those muscles. So we can watch the video and see that.
Chewing on something like a Twizzler, something that you have to kind of bite and really makes your mouth work hard.
And you could use fruit leather or carrots, things that are really crunchy, really chewy, beef jerky, things like that, or a bagel is something that can provide a lot of that resistance that provides that real good heavy work and that input to our muscles. Another activity which some kids might be familiar with from school, especially a little bit older kids, is doing a wall push-up or a regular push-up if they can do it, some chair push-ups, some sit-ups. Those are some activities that they might be used to from school that can provide some of that heavy work too. This is about creating a work corral. So if we think about it, in our houses right now, parents are working from home, siblings are at home, parents, caregivers might be coming and going to different essential jobs. There's video calls happening. There's more neighbors and just kind of people around. You might be hearing the neighbor in the apartment next door. You might hear their music or their TV. You might have an older sibling maybe playing some music. A little sibling is, you know, having a temper tantrum in the other room. So there's a lot of sensory info going on right now that our kids really need to filter out, and it's asking them to work real hard to do that. So this is a way to help filter out some of that information, and we can watch this little video to see. And as you can see, this is just it's just a piece of a big cardboard box. It's nothing fancy. And if you had a kid that maybe really needed those distractions, even filtered out a little bit more, maybe putting a blanket on top of it, using some headphones to decrease some of the noise around them, and kind of just play with it and see what works. If you have a little kid, maybe they'd enjoy doing some work in a tent or making a fort, and seeing what helps them to filter out a lot of the information that's coming and going at them throughout the day now. As we know, we're all going through a pretty stressful time right now, and it really is pretty typical for kids under stress to go back to old behaviors you thought they were done with. And so if your kid maybe had been potty trained, they might be having some accidents right now. They might be wetting the bed at night. If your kid was independently able to bathe regularly, they might start wanting you to maybe take a bath with them or help them in the bath. Maybe they were okay wearing socks. Now they're refusing to put those socks on. Now they want to stay in pajamas all day. They might be wanting a little bit more cuddle time at night. And it might be really frustrating, but it is a normal response to stress. So just try to be patient and know that they will get back to where they were. You know, once this is all over, hopefully sooner rather than later, but we'll get back to where we were, and we'll see those skills return again. And you can help kids by thinking of things that comfort them or that they naturally kind of go to when they're stressed, and giving them more opportunities to do those things. If your kid really enjoyed taking baths when they were little, maybe that's something that can comfort them again right now. Or if they're a kiddo that really likes to be wrapped in a blanket, maybe they're doing some work while they're wrapped up in a big blanket to provide a little bit of comfort to them.
So with everyone stressed out and being asked to do things we never thought we'd have to do, one thing that I've noticed is that it's easy for me to fall into a routine of constantly correcting and commanding my kids. And I've heard this from other parents as well, saying, you know, don't do that, get started on your schoolwork, turn off the TV, put your dish away, clean up after yourself. But all of this constant criticism can leave parents and kids feeling bad, and kids tune out this constant criticism, so it doesn't really help their behavior. So what we as parents can do is to pick up on what schools do, which is recognizing and reinforcing positive behavior with praise instead of criticism. So we can try to say one positive thing in the morning, one midday, and then one towards bedtime. So we're not only are we having sensory routines, but we're having positive reinforcement routines. You can say things like, hey, great job remembering to put your dish in the sink, or way to go, keeping up with your math today. And that can really help keep things positive as much as possible, and that also helps kids' behavior. Another thing that we can do as parents is try to spend a little bit of time just kind of being with our kids and doing something small with them every day. Or maybe, you know, if you can't do it every day, try to do it a couple times a week. It doesn't have to be a huge, big activity that you've planned. It can be something as simple as watching a funny little YouTube video, or watching a bit of their favorite show with your kids, or sitting and just having a snack with them. Most kids will find comfort in spending time with the people who love them, their family members.
Just stick with it. Know that there are many, many families out there going through similar challenges right now. We're all trying to figure this out. Also know that every family is really different. So what's working for one family may not work for yours. If you see some great idea on Facebook or Pinterest that you try it and it really just fails, that's okay. There's lots going on in everyone's house right now. And if tomorrow doesn't go well, there's always the next day, and there's the day after that. And if you do really feel like, you and your kid and your family is really struggling, do reach out to your child's teacher and their special education team and any therapist they might have been connected with, because we really are trying to support families as best we can right now. We really are here to help. We wish you all well, and thanks so much for listening today.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.